As a teenager, what challenges did you face growing up overseas?
Like, okay, where's my extended family? Where do I belong? I'm not home. You know, that's what's in your head constantly, because you're dealing with people that are not your people for the most part.
I don't think as foreigners we have the luxury of sending our children to local schools.
Right.
Education to us in the West is just a formal practice that everybody has to go through. Where you know and I know, especially in Africa, even the children know or believe how important education is.
So what is the quality and availability of education for children? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's
some
an
good
important
questions.
one.
I like these.
Yeah, that's an important one. Obviously, my children were too young because my daughter was, when we left there, my daughter was under school age. So when we went to Malaysia, we put her in a play school. Yeah.
Right.
And she benefited, even though Malay wasn't her language at all. Like within weeks, she came back. She was rapping in Malay, bro.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? And alhamdulillah, because obviously Malaysia is a Muslim country, their curriculum was all based upon not so much drilling them with Islam, because they were babies, but you found that they were coming home with certain adab and you know, a lot of their writing books and educational practices were all based upon an Islamic theme. After she would have graduated, she would have probably been fluent in Malay. I don't think as foreigners we have the luxury of sending our children to local schools. We have to take that into consideration, that you'll end up sending your child to an international school.
Wait, why do you say that though? I mean,
it's like this. When we move to the Muslim countries, obviously, partly it's an upgrade for us. Like, if we were working class back in the UK, because our money's a little bit longer, you're automatically elevated to middle class.
Right.
Because because of our financial power.
Yeah, but the standard could be like, okay, what's the standard back home, right?
Yes.
With middle class standard.
Well, that's an interesting thing.
You go to Egypt or whatever, that standard with that amount of money, right? Just say, would be basically around the same.
Surprisingly,
you just pay more. Not Malaysia. I'm not talking about Malaysia. Malaysia's a different story.
Yeah,
right?
surprisingly not. Like, I'll tell you what has been an eye-opener for me is that when we come here, people assume that West is best. Now, I'm not here West bashing. But here, once you cross the equator, you understand that education to us in the West is just a formal practice that everybody has to go through. I have to go to school because blah, 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 blah. Where you know and I know, especially in Africa, even the children know or believe how important education is.
Right.
So it's like, it's a done deal. I have to go to school and I have to do well.
That's true,
In our countries, it's like, okay, well,
it's a format, like you just
I have to go to school, bro. Even though I don't really want to go, I have to go. In this side of the world, it's like, no. I know I'm only 6, but I already understand how important education is. It's a whole different thing. So I think it's something that we as foreigners should utilize very much so. Like, try and instill that understanding into our children, rather than our children believing, education is something that I have to do because mum and daddy says I have to do it. But if they pick up the same enthusiasm that the children have here, well, I'm 8 and my mummy wants me to be a doctor, so that's what I'm going to be. Sounds a bit negative at first, but I think it's your outlook on how important education is.
Right.
The second thing is the West has been able to monopolize education in the sense that unless you have a British certificate, you can't really succeed. Which, in my understanding, from what I can see, like I look in Tanzania, for example, I've taken my family to the doctors, and I'm sure you've been to the doctors here, you know, and they haven't got UK standard certificates, but they still treat you the same way. The treatment is exactly the same way. But because the British, if you have a British standard certificate or you have a UK standard certificate as a doctor, you're seen as creme de la creme. When really and truly, bro, whether you're educated and have a certificate in Uganda and you're qualified as a doctor, you know, the practices might be a little bit different, the procedures might be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, the same person's coming to you with a broken foot and you're going to cure him the same way as you would in the UK or US. And I think that's a little bit of a negative, because even us as foreigners, when we get the opportunity to speak to people and say, look, bro, I understand that you want to go to the US. I understand that you want to go to the UK because the UK and the US have told you that in order for you to be a doctor of a high standard, you need the UK. But then you say to them, well, if you look at it, the greatest or the most renowned brain surgeons, bone surgeons, heart surgeons are from Iraq, are from Egypt, are from all these different places. And the point is this: once you're educated to a certain point, like PhD or whatever, the reason why these people are able to make these breakthroughs in medicine, yes, it's because of the education they got from the UK and US. But I'd say the basis of their educations began in the countries that they came from, Iraq and Egypt and UAE. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's just that we have to basically try and let them know it's not the all and be all to be educated in the West. If you have the opportunity, go, because all knowledge is beneficial knowledge. But if you don't have the capacity to go, be a doctor in the country that you're in.
But I think at that point you're talking about finances. I mean, you have an engineer that could be an Uber driver here, which is bad.
Yes.
But it's high valued somewhere else where he can make a good amount.
But he's still the thing. That's how it's understood socially, though. He's an engineer here in Egypt, and he should be given just as much respect as if he was able to go to the UK or US to be an engineer. But the way it's understood, well, you're not really carrying nothing unless you're educated in the UK and the US.
Right. They value that over...
which they shouldn't.
They shouldn't, but it's just...
Because being an engineer that's like saying, okay, well, the development in engineering that we have in Egypt can't be compared to what they have in the UK or US, which is ridiculous. Because an engineer here would understand engineering in Egypt better than an Egyptian engineer going to the UK and being an engineer in UK, because he's got to learn a whole different procedure. I mean, that's what I'm assuming.
Here at Make Hijrah, our goal is to bring you the latest information on what's going on in the Muslim world, ensuring that you're able to make informed decisions on how and where to make Hijrah. But we can't do this without your support. If you value this cause, go to fund.makehijra.com to support our productions. Your contribution allows us to travel throughout the Muslim world to give you a clear picture of what your options actually are. Whether it's a one-time or continuous donation, every bit helps us to continue producing content for you. Jazakallahu khairan for your support. Now back to the video.
Okay, as a teenager, what challenges did you face growing up overseas? Like, compared to what maybe you would have... I mean, I don't know if you can actually answer this question fully, because the question is comparing it to if you was in the States, comparing to the States and comparing it to living overseas. What were the greatest challenges that you had to face? So, for example, if you lived in the States for a little while...
I mean, I can clearly see the difference in mentality and your behavior and so on. I mean, there was always, growing up in Egypt, there was always Americans coming to Egypt, funny enough. And for the most part, the people that were here felt like they had a duty to, of course, help the people that were coming that were green, that were brand new. So, I mean, you see people that come there of older age, and you see how they behave and how they are. It was always an example for me growing up there. You know what I mean? That it was like, okay, he might not have his priorities straight or whatnot, or he was just completely different. You know, a little prone to different things. Right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I mean, the main challenge I would say is probably trying to connect, feeling that you're not out of place, feeling that you're at home. You know what I mean? I had to understand that way later, where it's like, okay, family is what makes you feel that, you know, you're at home for the most part. But connecting with the people on a very deep level was always hard to me, because I mean, it's not like you're Egyptian in the household, and Egyptian outside, and then it's a little different. Which I have friends that are like that, but there's still a disconnect there, especially growing up. So the main challenge was like, okay, where's my extended family? Where do I belong for the most part? You know what I mean? I'm not home. You know, that's what's in your head constantly, because you're dealing with people that are not your people for the most part. You know what I mean? You don't really start understanding until later. That's like, okay, you prefer to be around these are Muslims. They have something, you know what I mean, that the people there or your family don't really have, extended family. No. You know what I mean? So I think that was the main challenge, overcoming that, understanding that, okay, there's a clear difference here, right? One is with Islam and one is without. You know what I mean? And understanding that piece, because that, as long as you have that, I can give you the salams. Whereas over there is totally different. You know what I mean? So I would say that's the main struggle that a lot of us are facing growing up.
So let's clarify. So the challenge was obviously understanding that I'm never going to be a part of that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and also the missing part of having an extended family.
Yeah, having family where you're like, okay, you know what I mean? Where's the reunion? Where's the structure? Where's the organized? You know, which wasn't really there. Of course, you're around people that, you know, don't share the same. Even if you're Muslim, alhamdulillah. You know, there's core values there and still should be. But at the end of the day, you still have your own rules and so on that you were brought up with. No. You know what I mean? That's different than the locals.
So to overcome those challenges, you basically said, okay, well,
I don't think you just grow out of it for the most part. I mean, like if you're still growing up, and you get experiences along the way, and you know you deal with people and you meet people, then you clearly see, you know, you clearly see the barakah in it. Like, okay, of course, you know what I mean. It's no say so like that. You know what I mean. So
I mean, in an extreme case, do you think it could affect?
I've seen it though. It does affect a lot of people. Yeah, they have a sense to say, you know, I need to go where I belong.
So do you think that's one of the reasons why they return? Is that one of the reasons?
That's another huge topic where people or younger folk, right, returning, wanting to go back to, you know, the countries, and yeah, I mean, speaking with them and whatnot, knowing that, of course, it's because of, you know, family, it's because of the support, it's because of the opportunities and so on that they would get from being around their own people, right? And of course, there's people that regret it, there's people that, you know, but at the end of the day, it was happening, you know, in large amounts. Like, okay, I can't deal with this. I mean, I'm not doing nothing here or whatever. And a lot of that, I would say, is really dependent on how the family or the leaders of the household, you know, that's why it's so important.
They push through.
You know, you have to, you know what I mean? But you have to actually, that's why it's important to have that base or that understanding with the family to say that, okay, these are, you know, the goals or the milestones, something there. If you're just there, you're just living and kind of have your children just go, you know, run amok, then for the most part, they're going to say, this is not where I belong.
Get your copy of the Hijrah Handbook at book.makehijra.com.
So do you think that it's an interesting point, like, especially for a family who's never made Hijrah before, and they only have the theory, like, okay, we're going to make Hijrah to Malaysia, we're going to make Hijrah to Egypt, we're going to make Hijrah to Zanzibar, we're going to make Hijrah to Mauritania, we're going to make Hijrah to any country.
Right.
Yeah. And when they land, they have a misunderstanding that, okay, I'm amongst the Muslims now. This is the extended family. Because many of these
The
families...
parents will have it.
Yeah.
Not the children, though.
Yeah, the parents will have it.
The children don't. They're still young.
So the reality is what? I mean, I can answer the question, but as a young guy growing up, like, what's the answer to that? Like, how can we... I mean, let's be brutally honest. It's like human beings are human beings wherever you go.
Right.
And they're not... Some people are going to be welcoming and some people ain't.
That's fine. I believed having it to where you drop down. I mean, if you have young children, they're still growing, there's still experiences that shape their opinion or their views and whatnot. You should drop down into, for the most part, some type of structure, right? Because if you just drop down and you figuring it out as you go, that's where the challenges come, and that's where the experiences with the children become negative or positive.
So lower your expectations, basically.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say lower your expectations. I'm saying preparation. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if you drop into a community that's, that's supportive, that's established and whatnot, I mean, nobody's talking about anything, super out there. You know what I mean? Like, let's take Hijrah, for example. At that point, like, you will go to the masjid and you will see a whole bunch of, people that you can say, I relate to at least. You know what I mean? But if you just touch down and you're like, we're figuring it out with the locals. You know what I mean? The kids being raised and like that it's different. You know what I mean? I mean, Allahu Alam, it could be a good, positive or negative outcome. But in my experiences dealing with a lot of Americans that just touched down and had to figure it out, they end up hating the country. They end up wanting to leave. They end up wanting to have, some type of structure. You know what I mean?
But that's the thing.
What I mean by structure, just something that is, that is kind of laid out, not just going willy-nilly. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't just touch down and say, let's figure it out.
But that resentment, isn't that resentment brought? Isn't that ending resentment brought about because they hung on to that expectation of, I'm going to a Muslim country, so regardless of the fact I'm foreign or not, regardless of the fact that I'm a foreigner or not, I'm amongst the Muslims. So even though I have a darker complexion than my brother here, he's going to help me because I told him Assalamu alaikum. And then when it doesn't happen, when it continuously happens that I'm not getting any help here, bro.
Yeah, but that's the difference. Like, if you're talking about children or you're talking about adults,
well,
if you're talking about grown-ups, that's different.
Because obviously it's the grown-ups that make the decision to say, I no longer like this country because...
But the grown-ups, I mean, it's a little more solid. If you're talking about a child, his experiences kind of shape, his opinions and so on, as well as family. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, the parents could say, I'm sticking through it. The parents could say, no, this is it. I made Hijrah, I'm done. Yeah. But if the structure is not right and that child doesn't feel happy and his experiences is, his behavior reflected, you'll see signs. That child is not going to feel like he's at home. He's just not. Even if the parent is forever? Like, I'm gonna work this out. But bad experiences
forever. Is the child going to feel like he's not?
Not forever.
Yeah, that's the point.
No, not forever.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, because a lot of them will go back and they'll be like, you know what, this ain't it. I can't raise my family in this environment. You know what I mean? And they start to appreciate and understand the move. But of course they want to say, okay, let me do it differently. You know what I mean? That's at least what I get. Okay, I'm looking for stability. I'm not looking for something that's all willy-nilly. Because it made them, for the most part, Allahu Alam, but it kind of shaped that move or that idea in their head that's saying, okay, you know what, skip this. Muslim or not, I need to be with my people. I need to grow as a person. I need to start a family. I need to have tools in my life. You know what I mean? So they feel like, okay, you know what, I'm missing out. You know what I mean? That too. But that's another thing as well, because you have a group of young folk that's like, okay, I'm missing out on what's going on in the States culturally. Which you don't want, like that's
are they though?
Yeah.
That's just a feeling.
No, of course not. I mean, there's no argument there. We know that, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they feel. Yeah, and that could be for other. It could be actually, funny enough, it could be due to what's being said amongst his peers in the country that he's residing, saying that, you know what, I need to go on back.
Yeah.
Because my man Mahmoud or my man Moody or whatever was like, yo, I heard they doing this. Oh, yo, check this video out. Oh, yo, this is going on. Why you here? You know what I mean? All of that. He's young. You know what I mean? He's young, so it's going to say, you know what? I'm about to make a decision when I'm of age. Or even before that. You know what I mean? So, anyways, that's an interesting thing. So, touching down, I feel that you need to prepare. You need to have a structure. You also need to just plan, have goals. Don't just drop down and say this is it. If you don't have children, it's a different thing. But if you have children, you kind of, you have to shape. They have to have the same view eventually. Mm-hmm. But you don't want it to where they go through a whole bunch of hardships, and come back around after all these years to say you were right. You don't want that. You don't want that.
At MakeHijrah.com, we're dedicated to helping Muslims like you make the move to the Muslim world with ease. Our latest project is the Hijrah Readiness Assessment Test, a short, insightful survey designed to help you identify your strengths and areas for improvement on your Hijrah journey. Visit hijratest.com now and start your journey towards a successful Hijrah, inshallah.